Hey everybody, welcome back to James Draws Everything, and today we're doing kind of an interesting one. We are going back to Africa, the west coast of Africa, and we're going to be doing Liberia. And if you saw the thumbnail, you would see that this flag looks very similar to another flag. It actually looks a lot like the Malaysian flag. That's not where you thought I was going with that, huh? Well, yeah, it also looks like the United States flag, the red, white, and blue. And there is a reason for that. Liberia is kind of like the little brother of the United States. Liberia was the country of Liberia was formed in the 1840s, and it does have a very interesting history. It is one of the only African countries that has never been colonized, along with Ethiopia. And Liberia is interesting because it does kind of throw a monkey wrench into a lot of arguments for why African countries are underdeveloped. So, one of the most commonly used arguments for that is that, the countries were colonized, so they were plundered of all their resources, and you cannot make that argument for Liberia. So how did Liberia start? It was a product of what was called the American Colonization Society. So there was a plan in the 19th century to send freed slaves to Africa to form their own country, and that's kind of where Liberia came from. And when that happened in the 1840s, the freed American slaves, they're called the Americo-Liberians. They actually enslaved the native Liberian population there, and that led to decades and decades of conflict that still takes place to this day. So yeah, and then that argument also goes that if it wasn't for colonization, some of these countries would be building rocket ships, going to the moon, having great scientific achievements, like it's the Wakanda argument, and that never really happened in Liberia. And then another argument is that if some of these countries just develop policies like America, as far as like their economic policies, that they would not be poor. And Liberia's constitution is pretty much identical to the American Constitution, so kind of throws a monkey wrench into that argument too. The only real infrastructure that was ever built in the country was actually done by foreign investment. It was done by the Firestone Tire Company in the 1920s, and that for the longest time, that was pretty much the only industry in Liberia. There is no business there. So, and interestingly enough, the lease for Firestone actually comes up next year. So it'll be interesting to see if Firestone actually stays there. And yeah, that's pretty much the only kind of economic development the country ever had. It's been plunged into almost nonstop civil war for most of the 20th century. Liberian Civil War, very gruesome. And that's that's kind of a product of the tensions between the Americo-Liberians and the natives that were there. So, Liberia is definitely one of the lowest ranking countries on the Human Development Index. And you really can't blame colonialism for that because it was never colonized. So yeah, and you also can't really blame like their government. Well, on paper you can't blame their government because, again, their constitution is pretty much identical to the American one. And they have a lot of American influence as far as like how they set their government up. They have a Supreme Court, they have a president, but it never really works that way in practice. So yeah, your people make your constitutions. It's not just a piece of paper. So it'll be interesting to see, if Liberia can ever recover from, decades of civil war. They did have kind of a unique character in that civil war. There was a guy called General Butt Naked. And if you want to guess why he was called that, it's not because of the kind of jeans that he wore. It's more of what he didn't wear. And it's kind of crazy that guy wasn't from like 200 years ago. Like, he actually was active in my lifetime. So yeah, the Firestone Tire Company is pretty much the only business in Liberia. So they did run into a lot of economic trouble because they had no real infrastructure or industry to pay back their loans. And yeah, so is Firestone going to leave Liberia next year? Who knows? And yeah, the flag, again, you kind of know what this looks like from, the American flag and the Malaysian flag, interestingly enough. Maybe we'll do Malaysia soon, just to put it on the same page as Liberia. So yeah, even Liberian money actually kind of looks like American money. And James, do you have a Liberian dollar? Can I bug you for $1? Believe it or not, I do. So yeah, you can see kind of looks like a United States banknote, Central Bank of Liberia. This is William Tubman. He was one of the longest reigning presidents in Liberia. He was there for like 20 years. So again, so much for term limits. This guy was there for a very long time, even though, it's like the United States Constitution. It doesn't really work out that way. And in all fairness to Liberia, that was never, the presidential term limits was more of an unwritten rule in the United States, because George Washington left after 2, and every president left after 2 up until FDR, who was elected 4 times, in kind of the World War II and pre-World War II era, the 1930s, 1940s. So the United States Amendment limiting the president to 2 terms, that didn't come until much later. It was more of just like an unwritten rule. All right, so I just want to even out some of these lines here. And yeah, tell me what you think about Liberia. So, again, the arguments for why African countries are underdeveloped does not really apply with Liberia. So they have, all the benefits of not being colonized, I guess, if you want to call them benefits. But again, colonization did build infrastructure as far as like electricity, agriculture, that wasn't there before. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just kind of finishing off the flag here. So we know what the United States flag stands for. The good old red, white, and blue. Liberia has the same. The star in the flag represents the freedom that was granted to the ex-slaves and the African mainland. And let's see. So the blue in the background is liberty, justice, and fidelity. The white is purity, and the red, of course, stands for the valor, the fervor, sacrifices, the blood, and that is Liberia. Okay, so don't forget to comment below. Tell me what you think about Liberia and its issues. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.